great music, and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
Like this. Keep on. Never say die. Keep on. Like this. Keep on. Never say die. Keep on. Like this. Never say die. Never say die.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and I pop right on up fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you'll never miss an episode. Now, as I mentioned, I'm joining you live from Washington, D.C. I'm live from our nation's capital. We're just moments ago, right before we went on air, there are reports from the New York Times that the National Guard has begun arriving here on these D.C. streets. This is where things stand at this moment. National Guard troops are starting to appear on the streets of Washington, D.C., where President Trump has deployed 800 Guard members and 500 federal agents to fight what he calls, quotes, out-of-control crime in the nation's capital. President Trump's crackdown, which includes commandeering the city police, come even as official figures show a sharp drop in crime. This is the scene here. About a dozen members of the Army National Guard have appeared in 5 military vehicles across from the Washington Monument. They refused to answer questions about their mission or how long they would be here, with one saying he had been instructed not to answer questions. National Guard troops are starting to appear, and we're going to keep our eye on what is happening here. Of course, this is highly unusual. In fact, this is unprecedented. This hasn't happened before, where the sitting president of the United States has taken over DC law enforcement, and for no reason. The data, much of it from the Department of Justice, from the FBI, says that crime is down. And so when folks pressed the administration on, commandeering DC police because of crime, they kind of pivoted and they said, well, homeless encampments. You're doing all this to push out homeless folks? You're doing all this to push out the unhoused? Not to provide them with supportive services, not to put them in housing, but to push them out of the nation's capital. It is a bizarre turn of events, and we'll be digging into this momentarily with our guest this hour, Desiree Cormier Smith. But now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off this hour, Trump says he's looking at reclassifying marijuana at the federal level. USA Today is reporting that President Trump said that his administration is considering reclassifying marijuana as a less dangerous drug. Though 45 states have legalized the use of marijuana for medicinal and recreational use, the federal government still classifies it as a Schedule I drug. So there are different schedules. Schedule I drugs are defined as highly dangerous, addictive, and without medical use. Marijuana has belonged to this class of drugs since the Controlled Substances Act was signed in 1970. If reclassified, marijuana would be treated the same as drugs like Tylenol and codeine and anabolic steroids, which can be prescribed by licensed healthcare providers and dispensed by licensed pharmacies. Reclassifying marijuana would be the biggest change in marijuana policy that the federal government has taken since the drug was first outlawed, but it would not make recreational usage legal under federal law. The move began in 2022 when then President Joe Biden asked the Department of Health and Human Services and the Drug Enforcement Administration to review how marijuana is scheduled. You might remember in 2023, Health and Human Services recommended that marijuana be moved to Schedule III. In 2024, the DEA proposed a rule to transfer marijuana to Schedule III. That rule change has been on hold since March 2025. And so make no mistake about it, this was an effort that began under now former President Joe Biden and has been delayed by the current president. Kind of like that comprehensive immigration bill. Remember that? When Democrats and Republicans actually agreed on something that would have directed more resources to the border, would have done so many of the things. And then candidate Trump was calling people on Capitol Hill saying, don't vote for it. And it died on the Hill. I'm just saying, I mean, for as much flack as Democrats get for not getting things done, not making a material difference or enough of a material difference in the lives of everyday people, this is an example of how when Republicans obstruct quite effectively, right, and then turn around and try and take credit for it, I mean, this is how it happens. And so when he decides to reclassify marijuana, he's going to take that win for himself. You're not going to hear anything about Joe Biden or what anybody else did. But we are here to keep folks honest and accountable. In other news, NBC News is reporting on this trend that's afoot on TikTok. I hadn't heard about it until recently, but it is worth sharing with all of you. NBC News reporting on TikTok, this warning is spreading about this herbal tonic to feel free. Misha Brown apparently was walking into a local Circle K gas station in Austin when he says a teenage boy approached him and asked him to buy Feel Free. And when Brown said no, he said he believed the boy tried to grab his wallet. Brown recounted the story in a TikTok last month that has now over 23 million views. When he went to the store and told the attendant about the teen, she pointed to Feel Free, which is an herbal drink sold in small blue shot size bottles that claims to offer, quotes, relaxation, productivity, and focus, and told him that people were coming in around 6 times a day to purchase the product. It's, quote, so addictive and people lose their mind. Well, Brown had never heard of Feel Free, but the video set off a wave of comments about the product. Young people were describing quotes these devastating experiences with the products. Feel Free was launched by Botanic Tonics in 2020, and Feel Free Classic contains kava root, which is touted for its relaxing effects, and kratom, which is a plant native to Southeast Asia that's known for its stimulant and opioid-like effects. It's the kratom to Feel Free that has experts and health officials concerned. Food and Drug Administration declared kratom to be an opioid back in 2018 and has taken steps to crack down on products related to it. Kratom is not federally regulated, though 5 states, Alabama, Arkansas, Indiana, Rhode Island, and Wisconsin, they banned it, according to reports from the Congressional Research Service. And so be careful out there, folks. Sometimes when we are at the gas station and you may see a product that you think you need that's going to give you the energy boost, this one is not it, because according to reports, it has some opioid-like effect. It's not good for you. And so be careful out there, folks. When we come forward, we're switching gears. We'll be joined with Desiree Cormier Smith to talk about the Pentagon's plan that would create a military reaction force for civil unrest. As I just mentioned at the top of this hour, we know that the National Guard right now is getting in place here in the nation's capital. Things are ratcheting up, not down. It's strange because the more we report on this, the more it feels like we're not in the United States of America anymore, that we are in some place in some other part of the world where this is more often the norm. Desiree Cormier Smith is going to weigh in on that and keep me honest. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's.
The Parkinson's Foundation knows that the disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed. It affects everyone who supports and helps care for them.
If you have questions, the Parkinson's Foundation has answers.
We can help you understand the disease
and give you tips for living a better life.
Find your answers at parkinson.org or call 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on autopsy, then click on request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We have no permanent friends or permanent enemies. Only permanent interests as we effort to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Corte. I'm really delighted to welcome back to the show one of our favorite contributors, who's an expert on all things international affairs, Desiree Cormier Smith. She's the former special representative for racial justice at the U.S. State Department. She is also the co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. Desiree, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
It's good. It's good to have you here, particularly on a day like this, where the United States doesn't feel like the United States as we've known it, certainly in our lifetime. It feels like a foreign place where this kind of authoritarian behavior is commonplace. Talk to us about your initial reaction to Donald Trump's takeover of the DC police and the federalizing of the National Guard that is now beginning to take up space on the National Mall.
Yeah, this is extremely concerning, particularly since he lacks the real justification to do it, right? His reasoning behind federalizing the DC Police Department is not consistent with the facts. And this is an incredibly worrying trend of this administration because it's straight out of authoritarian playbooks around the world, right? It doesn't matter what the facts say. You create your own narrative, and then you double down on that narrative, and then you use the full force of the government to back up that narrative. And so it is incredibly concerning. It also happens to be the day that the State Department released the long overdue human rights reports that have historically been released in March or April. They are congressionally mandated, and they historically have been seen as a sort of honest, fair, accurate portrayal of human rights abuses and situations in every country around the world. And, you know, I knew that they were going to be bad, but they were so bad that it actually was shocking at the level of erasure that this administration is trying to get away with. So I'll give you a couple of examples. In past reports, including during the first Trump administration, there were entire sections on women, right? On people who experience racial or ethnic violence or discrimination, on indigenous peoples, on LGBTQI plus persons, because we know that each kinds of categories of these people face human rights violations simply for who they are. This year, all of those sections are gone. As if Black people don't exist, as if indigenous peoples don't exist, as if LGBTQI plus persons don't exist, as if women don't face unique challenges. It is so disturbing. I really encourage everyone to check it out because we have to remember that foreign policy is a continuation of domestic policy. And my colleagues and I are trying to raise the alarm about this because we fear that it portends how this administration will be viewing our human and civil rights here at home.
That's a very good point. And for our leaders, learners, and listeners who may be a little less familiar with this, the State Department has slashed its annual reports on human rights. The State Department released its long-awaited report on international human rights today. And to Desiree's point, they drastically reduced the type of government repression and abuse that the U.S. Under President Trump deems worthy of criticism. And so you got to ask yourself, if the President of the United States is going out of their way to quell any effort to call out foreign governments that are abusing their own people,
right,
then what are they planning for us?
Right.
What do they have up their sleeve? We are seeing something that is unprecedented, where sitting President of the United States, is commandeering local law enforcement in our nation's capital. Right now, as we speak, right here in Washington, D.C., there are National Guardsmen that have been federalized that are activating right now in the nation's capital. And though it may be more challenging to do this in other cities across the country, we've seen this president, this administration try. I mean, in my other home of Los Angeles, we saw thousands of National Guardsmen take their place and take up space. It's no mistake that this president is targeting cities that are led by Democrats and cities that are led by Black folks.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. Because in that announcement that he made that he was federalizing the Washington, D.C. Police Department, he called out a few other cities. And all of them happen to be majority Black and or led by Black mayors.
Yeah, I mean, it is disturbing to say the least. But back to this State Department annual human rights report, the new report on El Salvador, for example, they drop references to poor prison conditions, simply saying in the executive summary, quotes, there were no credible reports of significant human rights abuses. Part of why this is significant, these mass deportations, these ICE raids continue. And the Trump administration is making deals with any country that's willing to make deals with them. Quite frankly, any country that's trying to avoid a tariff that they cannot afford. And so they're saying, okay, we'll take them.
Yeah.
And if there is no reporting of what the conditions are in their prisons, what the human rights challenges are in these countries, we're potentially, sending American citizens, could be American citizens, innocent people. We're sending them into harm's way. I think the American people need to connect that dot, because we've seen too many stories of so-called administrative error.
Right.
If you can even imagine, imagine such a thing, that you have snatched somebody up off the street, somebody's wife, somebody's husband, somebody's child, somebody's loved one. You've snatched them up off the street. You have taken them into custody. You have put them on a plane and sent them out of state. And in some cases, you have sent them out of the country, and you're doing all this action, and you might ask questions later.
Yeah. And, I'm not saying that these reports were always perfect, right? But by and large, they were seen as credible and truthful. The way that these reports have been whitewashed and politicized by this administration will undermine the credibility of these reports for years to come. If you can look at the El Salvador report from this year, and this administration says there's no major human rights abuses. When the largest human rights organization, the head of that organization, had to flee the country for fear of her life, that's just not credible. So it's not consistent with the facts, right? And then you also see them weaponizing these reports. So, for example, the South Africa country report, they say that there's been a huge deterioration of the human rights situation in that country. Why? Because of the land expropriation bill. and what that means for white Afrikaners. I mean, it just defies reality, right? But these reports are clearly in line with this administration's worldview. And that, even if it's not consistent with reality, should concern everyone.
And it also breaks precedent. I mean, since the 1970s, and NPR had reported this, that the U.S. has compiled these reports on every country in the world, highlighting abuses such as restrictions on free assembly, unfair elections, and punishment of minority groups. None of these categories are documented in the new report. For me, call me crazy. I don't think I am, at least not about this, that these categories that are missing, to me, I think they are telegraphing what they are seeking to target here in the United States.
That's right.
Right now, we have a right to free assembly. You know, there are laws in place, some hanging on by a thread, that are about ensuring that we have fair elections in this country. Right. You know, that civil and human rights are protected in this country. Right. All of these things are targets, you know, of forces that seek to wield their power so strongly that they're intending to break them. And so when we come forward, I want to dig a little bit deeper into this. The Pentagon reportedly has a plan that would create a military reaction force for civil unrest. Where is this going? Where have we seen this movie before? I have a feeling that based upon the global experience that Desiree Cormier Smith has, she has some idea of where this thing may be going. More with Desiree Cormier Smith, the co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice, when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says President Trump has no legal authority to send National Guard troops to Chicago.
It's not surprising to me that he suggests violating the law. He's done it many times and been convicted of it 34 times.
Black Mayor Brandon Johnson adds that shootings and crimes are down since President Trump took office. Olympic sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson is taking accountability after her July arrest in an alleged domestic violence incident involving her boyfriend, Christian Coleman. In an Instagram post, she apologized to Coleman about personal growth and said she's focused on facing challenges head-on for herself, her family, and her fans. And Danielle Spencer, who played Dee on the 1970s sitcom What's Happening, has died at 60 after a battle with cancer. Her co-star Haywood Nelson announced she passed Monday at a hospital in Virginia. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Tuffincino with a wreck involving a motorcyclist. This is on the 60, making your way along that eastbound side. This is just before Ramona. It looks like they've just cleared it out of lanes, and delays are picking up coming off of Chino Hills Parkway. Also, let's head out to Claremont. A crash on the 10 eastbound past Indian Hill has been cleared to the shoulder, but that drive is soggy getting away from Kellogg Drive. Also in Long Beach, a stall on the 91 eastbound just before the 710. It's blocking the left lane. You're on the brakes from the 110.
Ignite your afternoons at Waba Grill's $5 happy hour with our 5-piece pork veggie dumplings and a value-sized premium beverage drink, like our tangy passion fruit lemonade. Enjoy $5 happy hour weekdays after 3 p.m. Only at Waba Grill.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Very interesting game tonight for the LA Sparks in the WNBA. The Sparks are playing the defending WNBA champions, the New York Liberty, tonight at Crypto.com Arena. The Sparks have played some impressive ball over the past month. They are 10-3 since July 10th and are one game below 500 at 15-16. The Sparks are also just a half game out of the 8th and final playoff spot. If the Sparks can pull off the win, they'll be at 500 for the first time this season since they were 1-1 in May. 7 p.m. tip-off. Just in case you're wondering, the Rams' backup quarterbacks are 12-year veteran Jimmy Garoppolo and second-year player Stetson Bennett. Bennett did not play a single snap last season, so he's essentially a rookie. Get familiar with Garoppolo and Bennett. Both of these guys are going to see a lot of playing time with Matthew Stafford on the sidelines with an aggravated disc in his lower back. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Sisters are doing it for themselves. Join the Black Hollywood Education and Resource Center for its 32nd annual Sisters Are Doing It For Themselves short film festival, featuring 22 powerful short films by emerging Black women directors. See their visions, hear their voices. Saturday, August 16th, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Writers Guild Theater, 135 South Doheny Drive in Beverly Hills. For more information, call BHERC at 323-957-4656 or email bherc@bherc.org. Tickets may be purchased at eventbrite.com or at the door.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me.
National news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We are live in Washington, D.C., where the Washington Post is reporting as the sun set on what would typically be an idyllic summer night in the nation's capital. Residents have been running past the Washington Monument. Athletes are playing recreational sports just beyond the White House. And the deployed National Guard held court at the National Mall. 5 Humvees line the streets at the corner of Jefferson Drive and 14th Street Southwest between the African American History and Cultural Museum and the Holocaust Memorial Museum. National Guard's troops have walked the sidewalks that form walking paths around the monuments as 3 DEA agents headed east towards the U.S. Capitol. Vehicles marked U.S. Secret Service police and U.S. Park Police were parked nearby. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser calls Trump's incursion an authoritarian push. The sitting mayor of Washington, D.C., just called the president's incursion, quote, an authoritarian push. Yeah. DC mayor offered her strongest rebuke yet of President Trump's DC police takeover. Bowser, who on Monday, after Trump's announcement, struck a more cautious and pragmatic tone, directly addressed residents' questions and concerns. She shared some of her own. And so a lot happening right here in the nation's capital to help us separate the fact from the fiction and put this in its proper global context. I'm delighted to welcome Desiree Cormier Smith. She's the co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. She's also the former U.S. Special Representative for Racial Justice at the U.S. State Department under President Biden. What comes to mind as you hear this report from the Washington Post? We are so far from normal, and with no end in sight. That's what I think. What do you think?
I mean, it is deeply concerning. It's scary, and we should not normalize it. And I'm glad that the mayor is calling it what it is, right? Like, in order to confront something, you have to first name it. And I know folks have tried to dance around the issue, avoid calling a thing, but you've got to say what this is. And this is very clearly authoritarian moves. And we have to call it out for what it is, but also be very steadfast in the response and not obey in advance. And I just also want to point out how much of a waste this is, how we are wasting so much money on this show of force. And the poor National Guards men and women that are being pulled from their families, from their jobs, to do what? To do what? To stroll around the streets of Washington, D.C. and not do anything but just be there for President Trump's delight? It's just, I mean, the same thing when 4,000 of them were deployed in Los Angeles. There were ample reports of them just sitting around doing nothing. That is a waste of taxpayer resources, and that is a waste of our time, of their time, our service members' time. And so I hope that this ends quickly. I hope that it looks as ridiculous as the justification for putting it, right? And I hope that we, similarly to what we saw in LA, I hope we just see, all of these federal law enforcement agents sitting around doing nothing, recognizing that this is also a waste of their time.
It's a waste of their time, and it also is at odds with efforts by local law enforcement to repair the breach of trust with community. Let's not understate how difficult that is for any community to do. There is a chasm, or has been historically a chasm, between local law enforcement and communities across this country. That is not a chasm that is easy to bridge. How fearful are you that, even if this doesn't last beyond the next 30 days, the lingering damage in terms of community trust with law enforcement may endure? How concerned are you about that?
Oh, definitely concerned. I'm also concerned for the potential of, some untrained federal law enforcement officer having a severe reaction to, something that doesn't deserve sort of lethal force. I mean, these troops, National Guards men and women, are not trained to do local law enforcement. And so there's also the potential for the use of deadly force in our communities that are already heavily militarized, right? And so I think people should also recognize that DC, although there has been a ton of gentrification, is still largely a Black city. And the potential for misuse of or overuse of police force, I think, is really concerning to me, particularly against young Black men and boys. Trump even cited teenagers as a threat, right? And so I'm very concerned about where this could head, particularly if there are untrained, heavily armed federal forces and National Guardsmen and women that don't want to be doing this, that aren't trained to do this, and may have a sort of severe reaction to some standard, encounter with the local community. There's real potential for violence here, I think.
Yeah, and you're not alone. You're not alone in thinking that. Just yesterday, we had Dr. Roger Mitchell Jr., who is the president of the National Medical Association, but also the former interim deputy mayor for public safety and justice here in Washington, D.C. He was appointed by Mayor Bowser back in 2020, and he's the father of two black men,
right?
Two young black men, and he shares your concern. This exclusive, as reported by the Washington Post, only allows for those sorts of concerns to grow. The Pentagon is reportedly they have a plan that would create a military reaction force for civil unrest. Now, for our leaders, learners, and listeners that are less familiar, you should know the Trump administration is evaluating plans that would establish a, quote, domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force composed of hundreds of National Guards troops tasked with rapidly deploying into American cities facing protests or other unrest. That's according to internal Pentagon documents reviewed by the Washington Post. The plan calls for 600 troops to be on standby at all times so they can deploy in as little as 1 hour. They would be split into two groups of 300 and stationed at military bases in Alabama and Arizona with purview of regions east and west of the Mississippi River. My sense is that this is the shock and awe that the Trump administration is looking for. This is the fight that the Trump administration is itching for. They can't wait for there to be mass protests, civil disturbance, and their plan, it seems, is to use that as an excuse to use the military to crush opposition. Where have we seen this before?
We've unfortunately seen it a lot in places around the world where even some who are democratically elected leaders come into power and they decide that they want to misuse that power and be authoritarians, right? And have authoritarian-like tendencies. And a key piece of that, again, is the use of military against one's own citizens. That is a telltale sign of authoritarianism, right? And particularly targeting those who are calling out the abuses of power, those perceived as opponents, political opponents, or those who are seen as, just not falling in line with the leader's priorities.
Yeah. I know you are a native of Los Angeles. Again, for folks who are less familiar, I'm talking to Larry Aubrey's granddaughter. Any activist and organizers in LA that know anything about some of the work that's taken place over the past few decades, you know who Larry Aubrey is and how hard he fought for students, particularly south of the 10 freeway in South LA, Black students. And so before we let you go in our remaining minutes, I had to ask you this question in light of the legacy you're a part of. The LA Times reported that agents had detained a student at gunpoint near a school in LA. Safe zones are to be expanded around LAUSD campuses. A 15-year-old boy, a student with disabilities, was at Arleta High School just on Monday with his family members, and he attended a different district school, but he was there when federal agents detained him LA Unified officials have confirmed this. The family members intervened, and after a few tense moments, the agents released the boy, but the school's principal came out to assess the situation and said the agents had left some bullets on the sidewalk, apparently by mistake, which were collected by school police. I put this question to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt earlier today, and she didn't have an answer for me, and sort of question the credibility of the LA Times.
Of course.
You and I have talked about this before, because my sense is that with these ICE raids, with the federalizing of the National Guard, that it's not going to take much for a situation like this, where an ICE agent goes after somebody they have no business going after.
Yeah.
In this case, a kid, an LAUSD student. And mind you, the LA Times reported that the immigration agent detained this disabled 15-year-old student at gunpoint outside this high school. Is this what America should be bracing for? Should we expect, unfortunately, to see more exchanges like this before there is any sort of mass protest or any action from Congress to stop it?
God, I really hope not. And I really hope that Congress comes back from their nice long recess ready to do their jobs. Because I really hope that this doesn't become the norm, but it will, and it can easily if there's little resistance to these sort of abuses of power and, frankly, human rights violations, right? And if folks don't see anything wrong with agents detaining a 15-year-old boy with disabilities at gunpoint for no apparent reason, but sounds like racial profiling, that is very scary. And, I think it is up to all of us who believe that we don't have to be this way, that there could be a better way for this country, to stand up and say, this is not okay. And we're not going to sit by and let this happen.
And one of the way people are standing up is they are joining the work that you are leading with so many others over at the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. How can our leaders and learners and listeners tap in to what you're building, the movement that you're building with folks that aren't giving up? They're not giving up on American democracy. They're not giving up on diplomacy. They're not giving up on seeking justice. How can they tap in to the work that you're leading?
That's right. Well, you can visit our website, www.theallianceforDiplomacyandJustice.org. Sign up for our newsletter, support our work, and stay in touch with us. There are more of us that believe in human rights and dignity and justice and equality for all than there are of this small minority of people who are trying to pull us back and take us back to the 1940s. I think that's one of the recent posts from the White House saying they want to take Washington, D.C. back to the 1940s, which was a time of segregation, right? And that's not what we're not going back to that.
We are not going back to that. We want to offer a big thanks to Desiree Cormier Smith for the work that you continue to do. These headlines are deeply concerning, and they obviously leave folks in a state of bewilderment.
Yeah.
And we're human. That happens. But we get up the next day and we do what we can from where we are with what we have. We're very thankful of the work that you're doing at the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. We will catch you again soon.
Yes.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580, The Quiet Part Out Loud, when we come forward. Thank you, Desiree.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
If you're an adult in need of accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You can earn one for free in as few as 5 months online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website at lapl.org/diploma. That's lapl.org/diploma.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank is on a mission to fight hunger and provide nutritious food to those in need across our community. They partner with federal, state, and local programs advocating for better policies and funding for critical hunger relief programs like Cal Fresh, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The food bank works with coalitions and local representatives to make sure hunger is addressed in every district of LA County. They also run nutrition education campaigns, raise hunger awareness, and source nutritious food for distribution, all while supporting regulations that allow food pantries to operate safely. Want to help? Visit lafoodbank.org or call 323-234-3030 to volunteer or find a food bank near you. Together, we can ensure that no one goes hungry in Los Angeles County. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you, working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. In our remaining minutes, it's time for the quiet part out loud. There are plenty of folks out there, including leaders at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, that may have their own narrative, but they don't have their own history. DC has been under tighter federal control before, and NPR published an article that really dug into what that looked like. It begs repeating, as President Trump has deployed the DC National Guard and has taken temporary control of the city's police force, making a significant escalation in the long-running threats to federalize the nation's capital. Despite Trump's claims, overall violent crime has dropped sharply in DC after spiking in the city and around the country after COVID. I live part-time in Washington, D.C., part-time in Los Angeles. And so I am not just going based on reports, I'm also going based on my experience. This idea that there's this, violence that has taken a grip on Washington, D.C., just does not bear out based on data, based on facts, based on my lived experience, and likely the lived experience of so many other people here in the District of Columbia. Violent crime has reached a 30-year low in 2024 and is further down 26% from this time last year. It's according to data from the DC Metropolitan Police Department. Nevertheless, we know that Trump is authorized to deploy the National Guard and assume emergency control over the Metropolitan Police Department under what's called Home Rule, which is the form of limited self-governance that Congress granted D.C. under the Home Rule Act of 1973. Home Rule allows residents to elect their own mayor and city council, but it maintains that Congress controls things like legislation and budget. And it gives the president certain powers he doesn't have in other states. Before Home Rule, D.C. was governed by a long series of presidentially appointed commissioners. And so even after Home Rule was implemented, there was a period in the 1990s when the federally created board oversaw the city's finances. And so as Trump asserts control over law enforcement in the city, it's worth understanding how D.C. got here. And if you're not among the roughly 700,000 people who call it home, I encourage you to take a look at this NPR article that gives you a sense of what life in D.C. looked like under previous periods of expanded federal control and how things have changed. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village helps us produce a more perfect union, including our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, Brother Andy, our show producers, Faraji and Art and Journey, and of course, each and every one of you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners. We curate this show with you in mind each and every day. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have, but by all means, do something. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai saying goodnight.